Hey guys, welcome back to another segment of A2D Agree Disagree. As always, I'm Michael. I'm here with Brian. All right, man. All right, so week two's in the books, and we had some pretty big scores this week, man. We had some pretty not really surprises, I would say, but yeah, some really big scores. So we're here to talk about our waiver ads and who to add, who to drop. And before we go into that, man, like how'd your week go? You know how I know there were some injuries that happened this week too. So how are we
Yeah,
reacting?
yeah. Let's start right there because that's how my week went. I started Trey Lance. So if those of you that are in the Trey Lance boat with me, Mister Breakout Trey Lance that I had, is now a broken ankle Trey Lance. So it's unfortunate, but for me, I think I got him in around 10ish, right in that range, like 8 to 10, whatever it was. So I didn't. It's not too bad, and it's the one position you can kind of get away with. That's one injury, so it's kind of a streamable position, unless you overdrafted him, then you might be in some trouble. But even then, dude, like we got guys on the waiver right now at quarterback spot. I got a couple names here. Top of my list is Mr. Jared Goff, your boy, your sleeper pick. Dude, that offense is legit. And speaking of your boy, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, so you already know about that offense. But yeah, Jared Goff, man, that offense is legit. They got Swift, they got St. Brown, they got Hawkinson. Just wait till Jameson Williams come back. They got DJ Chark. That offense is legit. And to your point, I think you called it last week in the Washington game. You were saying to get everyone in those games, you're almost gonna have to follow Detroit when it comes to fantasy because every single one, their defense isn't good, but their offense is good. So they can keep pace with some guys, and there's gonna be a lot of points in most of those games. They're going against the Vikings this week, going against your Vikings, and Jalen Hurts was able to kind of spread it out a little bit through the air,
Yeah.
and that's what Jared Goff can do. They have some guys like I just mentioned, so Jared Goff could be a streaming option this week.
Yeah, man, I 100% agree with you. Jared Goff was one of my sleepers going into the year. I think they have a pretty good offense down there. Even DeAndre Swift is, I think, a top five back right now. At least he is up there after this last week. So they like to throw the ball a lot. I think he came down with like 27 points. And for Jared Goff, I mean, that I'm not going to say that's going to happen every week, but I think it's going to happen again this week. You know, I think Minnesota did not make any adjustments in that game against Philly. They were playing 10 yards off the ball with their corners. If you do that against Amon Ra and you know all these guys that Detroit has, they're just going to burn us again. So, do I think Jared Goff is Jalen Hurts? No, I don't. But you know, it's still he's good enough to make those throws. Another quarterback I have, and if he's still on your waivers, guys, I mean, he's scored 30 points now in 2+ weeks, and that's Carson Wentz. So, you know, they have a good offense down there too, with Scary Terry, Logan Thomas, you know, Jahan Dotson. Their running backs out of the backfield are more pass catching backs anyway. So Washington's going to be a team that you're going to be they're going to pass a lot more this year. We're in a pass heavy league. Carson Wentz, I think, is quarterback 3 right now. So if he's on your waivers, go out and get him too.
Yeah, man, he's similar to Detroit. They're really similar. Defenses kind of struggle, but offenses are able to keep pace a little bit. So that's a good one, dude. That's I got another quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. If we're gonna stay on the quarterbacks real quick, I think Trevor Lawrence is starting to get a rhythm, starting to get an
Mm-hmm.
understanding of the new offense. Him and Christian Kirk got a little something going on, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're in same thing. It's like literally the same thing. That they're going to be in high scoring games because they're going to be trailing a lot and he's going to have to throw a lot. So these are guys that hey, garbage points matter. You'll take them all, man. In fantasy, they all matter. But that's one injury that at quarterback, and we kind of touched on a few quarterbacks. We had another injury this week with running back. Some guys drafted James Conner
Mm-hmm.
pretty high, and it looks like he has, I think it's an ankle, a sprained ankle maybe. So he might be missing a few short weeks here. So naturally, when you go to look at the waivers, I have Arizona. There's a couple running backs, and it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like, which one do you want? Do you want Darrell Williams or do you want the pass catching guy, Benjamin? For me, Darrell Williams, he actually had some good weeks last year with the Chiefs. For those that remember that, so I think he's been in those kind of offenses before. He's more of the safer kind of guy for me that you want to pick up. But even man, James Conner wasn't going so hot. So is this guy really going to go so high? Is it worth using a waiver if you're desperate? Maybe, maybe go ahead and use it. But even then, for a waiver, unless you have James Conner, then maybe. But I would look to maybe add one of these guys as opposed to use a valued waiver spot.
Yeah, I have Benjamin, number one on my list. I talked about it last week. I think he was somebody that, again, I said if something happened to James Conner, which I'm not a mind reader, I don't have a crystal ball, but if something was to happen to James Conner, I do believe Benjamin will be the biggest benefactor of that. So now in a PPR league, he's going to have most of his value in PPR. He kind of assumed the Chase Edmonds role from last year. That offense likes to play fast. When they were down in the 2-minute drill against the Raiders on Sunday, you saw him in the game, not necessarily Williams. So Williams is going to have value around the goal line. He's going to get first down carries. His floor might be a little bit higher, but his ceiling is also a lot lower. So just depending on how you feel about that. The other guy I have is Nyheim Hines. If he's on your waiver wire, I don't believe he should be a waiver guy. I think he should already be on somebody's team. But if he's on your waiver, go out and grab him. He was the higher scoring back this last week, believe it or not, over Jonathan Taylor. He has a lot more value in the pass game. And I don't know what's going on in Indy right now, but they don't look good at all. I know they were missing Michael Pittman, but that was one of the most embarrassing performances I've seen by a team in a long time. And it was to the Jaguars. So they're going to, if that's how this team's going to be, they're going to be trailing a lot. Nyheim Hines might have a lot of value. He's somebody that past this week, past injury, might have value for you anyway.
Right. I actually DFS'd him last week. I made a last-minute switch because I knew Pittman was out. So I'm thinking even with Pittman in, I think he might be their number 2 pass catcher behind Pittman just because they don't have a lot of receivers. But he gets a lot of targets. They like to use him a lot. So, yeah, he shouldn't even be on waivers. If he is, go grab him. My other running back I have written down is injury-related. Alvin Kamara is dealing with some stuff. So Mark Ingram, take away, I think he fumbled against us. Take away that fumble. He actually had a decent game against a pretty stout run defense. So Mark Ingram, if you have Alvin Kamara especially, then maybe he's worth it to grab. But he's strictly while Kamara is out and he's getting the workload. If he's getting the workload, he's got experience, so he can get you, 10 to 15 to 20, like in that range, No higher than 20 probably, but probably no lower than 10 if he's getting the full workload. So he's a guy that could be worth for some of the 0 RB guys out there that go heavy on quarterbacks and receivers. You need a guy that can get you 10 points, 15 points. That could be Mark Ingram for the next couple weeks if Kamara is still dealing with his issues. So that's another name I got on here.
Yeah, that again, for all the Camaro owners, if with all the stuff that he has going on, if you didn't go and get his handcuff, I mean, that's on you. But yeah, if he's on waivers, man, he might be able to help somebody, especially while Kamara's out. That's should be around 10 points at least. He's in a touchdown, you're looking at 16, 17 points.
Right.
The last one I wanted to kind of talk about, I'm not really high on it. I kind of want to get your opinion on it. Was that the rookie from San Francisco, Davius Price. I wanted to know, obviously it looked like Jeff Wilson got the bulk of the work, and then you still have Debo. But I've had some questions about him, and I'm not crazy sold on him only because I think he is a third option out of the backfield, but he did get some touches in that game. So, I mean, now that Trey Lance is not going to be taking the some carries away from that backfield.
Right. That's big.
Are you looking to add anybody in that backfield or am I?
Well, before like how we kind of got into it last time about Jeff Wilson, Rex Burkhead crap, and I didn't like either of them. Now it's obvious because without Trey Lance there, Jeff Wilson he did get most of the work and he didn't score a touchdown and he still had like 8 or 9 points, whatever it was. He still got some work. So
I think he had like 16 points.
Jeff Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
Did he? Oh, wow. Yeah, no, Jeff Wilson. So I would definitely go for him. He's been there longer. He's more proven. So if that's, like I said, without Trey Lance there, his value definitely goes up. Now he could potentially be like Elijah Mitchell, unless Debo, they could use Debo on the goal line. But other than that, it's going to be Jeff Wilson. So for me, I would definitely lean that way. He's been there longer. He knows the system. He's, got some size to him. He just handled a decent workload this week. So, yeah, I would go Jeff Wilson. Trey Lance, that him going down, that changed it all for me because I didn't think Jeff Wilson had a shot at scoring a touchdown, honestly, unless he broke one from 30. Because it's going to be Debo, it was going to be Trey. Hell, they were running Trey on 3rd and 6, just running that dude.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the last thing I wanted to mention in that game, because they scored 2 goal line touchdowns. One was Kyle Juszczyk, and the other was Jimmy G. So I mean, there's that kind of thought in your mind too. Is Kyle Shanahan likes to be a little bit creative.
Jeff
with
Wilson had 12.3 fantasy points.
12.3. Okay, so those 2 goal line carries, I would expect go to Wilson in the future. You could go with a guy like Debo on a sweep or something like that. But I was just kind of curious on the rookie, like if he was worth an ad. He was getting some touches. I think he got about 10 touches in that game. So I was just kind of curious on that. I've had some
Right. It's just that offense. Kyle Shanahan, like nobody even saw Elijah Mitchell coming last year. It was Trey Sermon, and now he's cut. So like it was Raheem Mostert. Like it's always some. I mentioned Hasty a couple shows ago. You just never know who it's going to be there. So that's why I personally stay away from that. I'd go for who's getting more of the bulk, and no one is really getting the bulk. Elijah Mitchell kind of started getting that last year, but he's gone now. So I don't see anyone, honestly, not even Jeff Wilson. Maybe I just see him as the lead guy, but that he's like projected 12. He got 12 last week. I think that's right, 8 to 12, 15-ish if he scores.
Yeah, he's a desperation.
I don't think, he's not going to pop. I don't think he's going to pop. They got other guys on that offense that are the focal points for sure. So, I mean, that about covers running backs. We went over quarterbacks, wide receivers, man. I don't know if there's much of injuries. I know my boy got suspended, so there's a little bit of news, and it's only for a 1-week thing. So I don't know if you want to use your waiver, depending how your waiver status is. If it's like ours, you probably want to hang on to it. But there are a couple guys, people are in my other league. Russell Gage is on the waiver wire. Brashad Perriman, he's a guy that he's scored the touchdown. He's kind of the deep threat right now. He's going to be in with Mike gone. Because that was kind of Mike's thing. If Mike's not going to be out there for 1 week, might be Brashad Perriman. We went out and signed Cole Beasley today. So Mike Evans got suspended, but there's a couple options for that. Cole Beasley, are you gonna go for it this week to fill Mike Evans' shoes? None of these guys are gonna really do that. If you need one, I think Perriman might have the best chance because the deep ball. If he hits on one, and Tom's gonna take his shots. So Perriman, if you had to pick one up for a spot start, I think I kind of lean towards Perriman over Gage and over these other guys. So. Like Scotty Miller, I know people are talking about maybe picking him up for a week, but I wouldn't do it. It's if there was one, it would be Perriman for me.
You took everything out of my mouth. Perriman's the first one I have written down. He's my tie for this week. With Mike Evans, he's appealing that suspension, so there's a possibility he could still be out there on Sunday. But if he's out, Godwin's most likely still going to be out, and maybe Julio's still going to be out. So I think Perryman's going to probably lead the team in targets. The only problem that I see is they play against Green Bay. So, they might be seeing zone coverage, but he might be seeing
right. The thing about Perriman is like he runs a lot of vertical stuff. He's a strictly kind of an outside guy. You don't really see him line up in the middle a lot. And Tommy, sometimes he likes to take the check down and take the easy stuff. So you're kind of depending on him to hit a deep one. But the thing is, you could probably expect like 7 shots. Like he might hit one. Like if he's getting that many opportunities, the chances of hitting them are going to go up too. So
the next guy I have, he's coming back from injury. He's been dealing with a knee all through training camp, and he missed the first 2 games, but it looks like he might be ready to go. Is Van Jefferson for the Rams. I think this actually opens up that offense a little bit. He was their deep threat last year for the most part. And so now, I mean, that's been a Cooper Kupp or bust offense the first 2 weeks. And with Van Jefferson, he played with the Rams last year. So, I mean, over even a guy like Allen Robinson, he played with Matt last year. And I think the issue with Allen Robinson right now is just chemistry. You saw him catch a touchdown last week. He had a second one called back. So, I mean, he's starting to develop that chemistry a little bit. With Van there, I mean, the offense is going to be wide open. You're going to see coverage go over to Cooper Kupp a little bit. Van Jefferson's a pretty good receiver, you know, and he's going to hit those deep shots. So when they go deep and he hits,
yeah. To me,
that's who they're going
he's
to
a
go
good
to.
fit. Like because Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson to me is a kind of a poor man's Keenan Allen, like a really good route runner, a complete receiver, but he's not a get vertical kind of guy. He's a back shoulder kind of guy, you know, like good feet, good hands. Vertical and that's what Van Jefferson does. They've been missing that. Right now they've been going with Skoranek, your boy, a lot. And he's similar. They're like almost all three possession slot style receivers. Having that guy that can take the top off, and you know Stafford likes to take his chances for sure. Like he had a few games. I spot started Van Jefferson because I had Stafford, so I tried to do a little poor man stack right there, and it worked out a few games, man. They hit a couple times, and that could be worth a pickup for sure. Next on my wide receiver list is one of my sleepers that I talked about, and that was Garrett Wilson. I talked about him before the draft, and man, this kid is showing why he was a first-round draft pick. He can make the plays with balls in his hands, and he's able to get open too on some good routes. He's coming off a 30-point game. He's looking like he is not going anywhere. He's a first-round pick for a reason, and they are using him right now. Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson are the two leading target guys on the Jets, with Elijah Moore coming in third right behind him. But that's the three right there. Those are the three. Those are the three that are going to get the looks, and they're the Jets. They're going to be losing a lot. So Garrett Wilson, to me, he's worth a pickup. I actually am using a waiver in my other league for him. Drafted him for Jeff in our league with his last pick. Wish I would have put a different name up there so I could have maybe got him. But yeah, Garrett Wilson, dude, he's looking pretty good for New York Jets.
Yeah, you know, he definitely showed up in that Browns game. You know, so I was high on Elijah Moore, and I'm still high on Elijah Moore. Once you know their starting quarterback comes back, but you know with Joe Flacco right now, he kind of likes to pinpoint a guy for at least the next 2 weeks. It could be Garrett Wilson, and going forward, I mean, again, he was about the 10th overall pick, so he's a talented kid. It's not like he's you know a 7th round out of nowhere guy. So I'd be surprised if he was still on waivers at this point. I mean, obviously this last week he boomed. So if he's on waivers, yeah, go get him. I mean, that's what you needed to see for you to have him on your roster. But I know a lot of like in both leagues, like he's been drafted. So if he's on waivers, yeah, that's a good one to get. I talked about this guy last week, and he went out and he performed. This is Noah Brown. Noah Brown, especially with Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
I think I even heard, I forgot who was calling that game. I think it was Tony Romo, right? I think Tony Romo made a comment. He's like, hey, they have a lot of history on the second team together. And I said, man, I said on the podcast last week. I mean, it's almost like these guys take the words right out of our mouths, right? So Noah Brown is a guy that you can probably, he's got double-digit points both weeks. And I think he's going to be someone that you can target. Even when Gallup comes back, I think this is actually a guy that you could keep and flex for most matchups. Now, not every matchup, but I think this week is actually a good week to actually play him or to get him and play him.
Right. No, you hit that one. We talked about that, how the offense gets affected with the Dak injury. That was one of our topics last week. And Noah Brown, you hit that right on the money. And then, you know, I even talked about Tony Pollard, how his value is going to go up a little bit, and he had a solid game. So Pollard and Noah Brown, those are going to be guys that can get you some points in fantasy going forward. Another receiver to stay on the receivers. I got another rookie. These rookie first-round picks, man. Your guy from DFS, Jahan Dotson, right? He's starting to look. We talked about the Commanders earlier. You gave him a brief shout out earlier when we were talking about Carson Wentz, but he's a guy, man. They got some weapons over there. Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Scary Terry, and then another guy. Let's get into it. Let's get into him too. Logan Thomas. He's on my tight end list right here. So we talked about the team. We talked about the quarterback, and now I got a receiver and a tight end from that. You know, they're going to be trailing a lot, man. They're similar to the Lions and the Jags. They're going to be trailing. they're going to be getting points. So even if they're garbage points, you want them in fantasy. So go get these guys, man. These Commanders, they're Carson Wentz. He might not be the best, but he ain't scared. That boy will let it rip, man. He's kind of like he's got some Jameis to him, like that. They'll throw it up there and let the guys go and get it. And these talented guys, you got Scary Terry, Dotson, Logan Thomas, they're legit. Curtis Samuel, we talked about him after the first week, dude. He had another 20-point game this week. Curtis Samuel has been balling. So if there's some chance that he's still on your waiver, go get him. They're using him all kind of ways, man. They're like so. Yeah, go get on these Commanders offense.
You know, it's funny because you talked about Curtis Samuel. He was on waivers last week, surprisingly, somehow in some of the leagues. You know, last year before his injury, I mean, he was a top, 6-7 round draft pick and before he, you know, the hamstring injuries and all that kind of stuff. But there's another guy in the receivers that I want to talk about before we move on to tight ends. And it's actually, his name is Greg Dortch from Arizona. They are using him very similar to Curtis Samuel down there in Washington. You know, a lot of, you know, get the ball in his hands. He's their return guy, so he gets a lot
Rondale Moore is out, so he's taking all those.
Yeah, and he's actually looked pretty good, man. And I like you just mentioned Rondale Moore. So as long as Rondale's out, as long as you know, there's AJ Green hasn't showed up. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be suspended for 4 more games. So this is a guy that you might, you know, look, because that's another option. That's another offense is going to go for a lot of yards. So Eno Benjamin and Greg Dortch in Arizona's offense right now, those are not big names, but they're guys that are actually scoring double-digit fantasy points. I think he had like 15 points last week. Believe it or not, he's the guy that is going to get a lot of Kyler targets. So, you know, again, if you're, I don't know if I'd use a waiver because not a lot of guys are going to be talking about him, but
right.
You know, come Wednesday morning and you're looking
to somebody. Yeah, he might be a guy for like a DFS too because Rondale Moore is coming back, Hopkins is coming back. So his value, it's not going to be a long-term thing, but for the short term, that's a name to look at for the deeper leagues, the 12-man leagues, the deep bench leagues like we're in. You might need a guy to give you a spot start, and there could be a guy right there. But to get into tight ends, I just briefly mentioned Logan Thomas. 2 years ago, he was balling. He was like a top 5 tight end. He, like I said, he's a former quarterback. He understands how to get open. He's big. He's good. And he's in that offense with Washington. So go get Logan Thomas if you need a tight end. There's one right there. I have another one written down that's a little bit more deeper, and he's on the Jets, your boy, Tyler Conklin.
Hey, stop taking all the names out of my book, man. Damn it. That was my number one on the list.
But 9 targets, 6 catches, 40 yards without scoring a touchdown last week. Clearly, he's the tight end 1 down there now. They brought in Uzama, and a lot of people thought that it was going to be him. But, man, it looks like it's Mr. Conklin down there. So that's another deep one. That's basically all I have at tight end. I know I actually dropped Gesicki in my league. He had a good game, and he might be coming back. So, like, there are guys that you can go get at tight end. But, yeah, who you got?
So I'm glad that we agree on this entire show because I have Tyler Conklin written down number 1. I mean, he saw 9 targets. That's the second week in a row where he's had rapport with Joe Flacco. Now let's see if that continues, obviously. But I mean, for right now, he's tight end 9, and even in a 10-man league, he's a top 10 tight end right now. So unless if you have Kelsey, I mean, Dalton Schultz, it looks like he's going to be out maybe this week, a couple weeks. He has a PCL sprain. So if you need a tight end, Tyler Conklin's a good one to go with. If Irv Smith is still on your waiver wire, this is a guy that, you know, he didn't get a catch week 1. Week 2, he caught a touchdown, but he also dropped like a 70-yard touchdown. He could have had a really, really big game, and that was a turning point in that game. The ball was right on the money, and he just dropped it.
Right. And clearly they're trying to get him the ball. He's young. He's talented. You just look at him, dude. Dude's big and strong and fast, and all that ball is right there. So yeah, that's a good one, man, for sure.
He saw 7 or 8 targets in that game too. One, you know, the Eagles were just swarming, man, and they played really good ball. I'm not going to take anything away from that Philly defense last night. But you know, there's a couple that just were bad away from him. Irv Smith is a guy that if he's still on waivers, go grab him, and you can actually play him. And I believe going forward in that offense, he's a guy that you can play every week. He's kind of a set and forget guy, but that's
Right.
just me being a little personal.
No,
And then
that's
you
true. Yeah, not even. I agree with that. I think Adam Thielen is he's not getting as involved in that offense anymore. Clearly, they're trying to go to the younger route, Irv Smith and Justin Jefferson. So I could see Irv Smith. That's a good one for sure. If he's not rostered, he should be rostered, especially after watching that last night. Like they're
yeah.
clearly trying to get him the ball.
Yeah. So, of course, I know minutes. I've watched every single Vikings game since I've been alive. Adam Thielen is the man beater, dude. So like last night, they should have been looking Adam Thielen's way, and I think they finally figured out late in the third quarter, go to Adam Thielen. Kirk was throwing some dots, and then he also, anytime he tried to force Jefferson the ball, it was picked. So he should have realized like, hey, Adam is open most of the time. And then Irv Smith, like when they play man, he's a big tight end. He's gonna beat or win most of those battles. When you're going against a zone defense, Jefferson's gonna eat all day long. Teams like Green Bay who play zone against him, he's shown it every single game in his career against Green Bay. He just eats against them. But against man, this is where you want to look at Irv Smith and Adam Thielen, and hopefully Kirk can figure that out. And the last name I have on here is Mike Gesicki. You just mentioned him. That offense looks explosive. He is option 3, option 4 on that team in the passing game. But if Tua is going to throw the ball 50 times, he's going to see targets. And down near the red zone, when it gets a little bit tighter, he's going to see a lot of targets. So Mike Gesicki, if he's on waivers, if he didn't get drafted and he's on waivers, go grab him too.
Man, that offense, man, looked super explosive. That coach McDaniel's got that offense humming, man. So look out for those Dolphins, 2-0. But yeah, that covers our ads, our top waiver ads. We kind of went through each position that we went through. So if you guys have, that's our situations. Those are the main injury situations. So if you guys have any other situation, let us know about it. Make sure you guys subscribe. And like I said, let us know and we'll help you out. We'll let you know in the deeper leagues. We know there are some deeper names out there, and we don't mind digging a little deeper and getting to those. So like I said, subscribe, stay tuned, and we got some starts and sits coming at you next.